What's going on, football fans? Welcome to another week of BLV NFL Picks. I'm Mitch, back with my NFL Week 15 picks versus the spread and straight up. In this video, I break down all 16 NFL games from Week 15. I'll give you my thoughts, who's going to win, who's going to cover. We'll dive into the matchups, and we'll address all the biggest games on a very big NFL slate. There are a ton of marquee matchups in Week 15. I'm excited to discuss them and give you my picks. So before we get started, guys, don't forget to spike the like button. And if you love the content on the Bottom Line View, and for some reason you have yet to subscribe to the channel, bro. Please. Thanks, man. All right, let's get started. Before we break down the games, let's look at my record from last week, which was a pretty interesting week on our picks. So, we had one of the weirdest weeks of the season where we actually had a pretty good straight-up record. I think our straight-up record was 9-4. Our spread record was the reverse. 3-9-1. The push was on the Dolphins -6. They ended up winning in overtime, so I counted that one as a push. Also on the best bets, we did not fare well. Our first bad week, below 500 week since, I think, week 9. We went 1-3-1, including the Miami Dolphins, once again, pushing on 6. So I didn't really include the pushes. I don't include the pushes on the best bets. And our spread record did drop because of a bad week at 3-9-1. We're now 109-95-4. Our straight up picks, still pretty positive, though, at 9-4 last week, 132-75. So let's have a bit of a bounce back week versus the spread. This one is not going to be, I don't think, an easy week, but I definitely feel like it's a very bettable week this week in Week 15 because there's so many marquee matchups, so many big games with big-time implications for the NFL playoffs. Big Al says, what's up, Mitch? I went 9-4 straight up and 4-9 ATS. Okay, that makes sense, Big Al. For the season, I am 139-69 straight up, and I am 105-2 ATS. So Big Al's been great straight up, but struggling a little bit versus the spread. What's up, Caesar? What's up, Stephanie? Stephanie's always the first one here. She beat Big Al to the show. That's impressive stuff right there. Everybody give a shout out to Stephanie in the chat. And spike the like button. Let's go. Let's get started. First matchup of Week 15 is going to be the Thursday night football game. I will be live, of course, for the San Francisco 49ers at home, taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Both teams off of impressive victories. The Rams as an underdog at home over the MVP Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, while the San Francisco 49ers put up historic yard differential in the first half in their absolute beatdown of the Chicago Bears when the Bears had 4 yards to the Niners' 300-plus yards in the first half. So the Niners might be back. The Rams are absolutely humming on offense, so this makes for a really interesting Week 15 Thursday night game. Whichever team loses this game has a much much weaker chance of making the playoffs. Sometimes you have to find the word. You just keep spitting out words until you find the word. That's exactly what I just did, okay? The 49ers are at home. The 49ers, therefore are favored by 2.5. I am going to pick the Niners for a variety of reasons. We're going to break it down. The Rams, if they lose this game, it's not as big of a deal as if the Niners lose the game. If the Niners lose the game, they're pretty much out. They're pretty much out of commission, right, for the NFL playoffs, specifically because it would be a divisional loss. It would give one of their direct opponents within their division another victory. So I think that's why, right? The Niners can afford to lose another game, but it would have to come against Miami or Detroit if they want to make the playoffs, right? Now, if they do end up sweeping their entire card, they have a very strong chance of making the playoffs, but it does include playing Detroit and Miami. So just putting that out there, they do still play the Cardinals and this Rams game in the division. They've played the Seahawks twice, so they already split with the Seahawks 1-1. Now, with the Rams, they did win the game against the Niners earlier in the season, and that's kind of where I want to begin. We're also going to break this game down on OUTLIER as well. So, the game earlier this year, the Niners dominated the first half, and the Rams had a miracle fourth quarter comeback in which there was a couple field goal misses, special teams, miscues, and incredible Stafford throws. In that game, there was no Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua for the Rams. So the Rams were at less of a strength offensively. So it was pretty impressive that they were able to come back. That was also the game that Jawan Jennings had like 1,000,000 yards. The Niners were also injured, but probably not as injured as they currently are. That being said, the 49ers will be getting back Nick Bosa for this game, most likely, and Dre Greenlaw for the first time this season on Thursday Night Football. Dre Greenlaw will be interesting because he's obviously coming off of a torn Achilles. It's kind of hard to know how good he'll be or how fast he'll be. That being said, one of the weaker defenders on the Niners defense has been Devondre Campbell. So if he can just upgrade from Devondre Campbell, that would be significant alongside Fred Warner. The Niners D-line looked fantastic last week against Chicago, specifically Yetur Gross-Matos, who had 3 sacks. I think he might have been named the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. So the Niners defensive line has been getting a little bit better lately without Nick Bosa. Leonard Floyd also playing really, really well. And Hufanga was also added to the defense last week against Chicago. He made a massive difference, especially in terms of flying to the football and playing the run, and his communication on the back end to allow the Niners secondary to be at full strength and be able to kind of, call out the formations, call out the plays, be one of those quarterbacks in the secondary. I think that was a very underrated addition. And I think people are underrating how much Hufanga maybe means to this defense, because when you look at the splits of him playing in 2022 as an All-Pro in 2022, gets injured in the middle of 2023, and you see the immediate drop-off of the 49er defense in 2023, late last season when he went down, and you've seen how they've played this year, I do think that he makes a major difference. I think one of the interesting things about this game is that I think the Niners secondary, specifically their cornerback group, is one of the more underrated groups in football. And I think as a pass defense overall, even with their deficiencies and even with their losses, they've been very, very good as a pass defense. I think they've more so struggled defending success rate of runs, which means they give up 3 yards or 4 yards pretty frequently. They don't allow a lot of explosive runs, but they kind of allow you to move them down the field. They allow a lot of short passes. They allow a lot of easy runs, but they make you go the length of the field quite often. Now, with Hufanga, with Greenlaw, that also helps them defend those plays because they're much better tacklers. They're much more vicious and fast football players than their replacements. So that does make a difference for me, and I'm intrigued to see how guys like Lenore and returning Charvarius Ward, who played last week, also do defend Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, who's pretty much been unstoppable. But that's going to be a marquee matchup to watch, those corners against those receivers. The Niners have typically done a good job at defending the Rams. They know how their offense operates. They know how to defend their motions. They know what's coming to a certain degree. So that does give them an edge, especially playing at home. Stafford has never really played amazing against the 49ers, so that also gives me a little bit of faith that the Niners will be able to play pretty good defense here. But the way the Rams are playing, they should at least be able to score around 24 points. So the Niners are going to have to score if they want to win this game. And we saw the Niners kind of get back to a little bit more of their play action in the game against Chicago, a little bit more to their screen game and yak plays against Chicago, especially to George Kittle, which I thought was a pretty big, switch up, because the Niners have much more tried to become this drop back passing team with Brock Purdy this year. And I think they got back to old school Shanahan flavor last week, which I think was pretty big. Offensively, I do think the Niners should have plenty of success throwing the ball. The Rams defense, as we've seen, is not great, especially in terms of their secondary. They're dealing with injuries to some of their cornerbacks. Durant is going to be out of this game, which is going to thrust, I believe, a recently picked up Washington Commander Forbes. The bust of a first-round pick might be starting at corner on one of these sides. So that's big to me, because I don't think that the Rams really have great corners. I don't think the Rams have fast linebackers or the ability to cover in space. And I think Purdy's going to have a pretty darn good day. Maybe LA is able to have the odd time where they're able to rush Purdy and get after him and create a sack or a pressure, because the Niners will be without Trent Williams. But Jalen Moore, their left tackle backups, played much better than anyone would have expected. Isaac Guerrero is questionable. We'll have to see if he goes. Obviously, he'd be huge if he does play, because he's been electric when he's been in there for the 49ers. He's their third running back at this point. Maybe their fourth, arguably, because Elijah Mitchell is also injured. But he's been great as a rookie, so that would be big. But Patrick Taylor Jr. also can contribute as well. So I think for the Rams, if they're going to win this game on the road, I think it's going to come down to, can Puka Nacua continue to do his thing on third down? Can Kyren Williams steadily move the football on the ground, which has been an inconsistent aspect of the Rams? Can they block the 49er front four, especially if Nick Bosa plays? That might be difficult. And then also on the other side, can their defense just not give up too many explosives through the passing game? And can they slow down the running game? Overall, the Niners have mostly won these matchups. When you talk about Shanahan and McVay, I feel like it's hard for me to imagine that they will get swept, even with all the injuries that they have had and the way that they've played. So I think the Niners at home will take this game. I'm going to say something like 28-24 or 30-23, something of that manner, maybe 27-20. In that range, it should be decided by a relatively close spread. I think I would lean towards laying the points with the 49ers under a field goal. At 3 or 3.5, 3.5, I would lean towards the Rams. Niners, I would slightly still side to the Niners at 3. But this is not going to be a best bet just because the Niners have some uncertainty with the health. But this really does feel like a game that feels like a pretty predictable 49er potential big win. But especially after the Rams just completely played their peak performance against the Bills, it kind of does feel that way. But you never know. So I'm not going to rule out Stafford for winning this game. So I'm going to go Niners to win, Niners to cover here on Thursday night. It should be an excellent, fun game between two great coaches. Next up, Sunday football, I should say. We've got the Baltimore Ravens at the New York Giants. Big Al is going to go Niners 27, Rams 24. San Francisco wins and covers, and this is a letdown spot for LA. Okay, so he brought that up. Before I get to Baltimore, I do got to check out OUTLIER on this game because I think there could be some props. Even if you don't want to bet the spread, there could be some alluring, intriguing props. Stephanie is also going to go Niners 28-23. I assume she went with 23 for the spread, so she's going to lean towards the Niners. Shout out to 50 people in the chat right now. Shout out to you guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to Gronk spike the like button so more NFL fans can find the Bottom Line View and can find these NFL picks and can chat along with us. If you're wondering why you can't access the live chat, it's because you have to be a BLV member. It starts at $3, guys, and you can access the chat along with other perks, including the BLV vs. Consensus podcast, where myself, Durkant, and Ultra break down every game in depth for about 2 hours on every Friday. So make sure to check that out, $3. And they bring their own intriguing perspectives. Durkant certainly pushes back on me. Ultra usually brings the stats. So it's a pretty interesting show to tune into. All right, let's get to the props. So let's just check where the money is flowing so far. We've got 63% of the bets on the money line going to LA, as well as 73% of the money. 82% of the bets on the spread is on LA, while 94% of the money is also on LA. I'm not sure how much that is dictated towards the line move. or not. I don't really know sometimes. 53% of the bets is on the over. 90% of the money is on the under. That's pretty interesting. 48.5. I guess maybe if it's like 27-20 or 24-20, it could be an under, but I don't know, man. I wouldn't play the under in a McVay-Shanahan game. That's just me personally. Okay, let's go insights. And here's on Outlier. We go insights, we go games, we go Niners, Rams, and then we can check out some props here. Matthew Stafford has failed to succeed 33.5 passing attempts in 4 of his last 5 games on the road. The only reason this might go over is if they trail early in the game, which is entirely possible. It's definitely possible with this football team. If they fall behind because of the down spot like Big Al brought up, it's possible. So I don't think I would bet that, although I think the Rams will lean into the run game. Niners are 4-10 against the spread in their last 14 games. That makes sense. They have not been great, especially lately. You look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then, okay. So there you go. What do we got? Rams are 4-11 in their last 15 games as an underdog, which directly opposes the 49ers' bad record against the spread at home. Debo has failed to exceed 4.5 receptions in 9 of his last 10 games. That's minus 165, though. That's not really great. Anything interesting here? Purdy has failed to succeed 29.5 attempts. I don't know. I feel like he could throw in this game a little bit. I do feel the Niners are going to throw, especially if Garendo is out. I think they're going to pass the ball. The over is hit in 5 of the Niners' last 6 games versus bottom 10 scoring defenses. That's interesting. Kupp has exceeded 49.5 receiving yards in 6 of his last 7 games. That's minus 137. That doesn't feel like the odds are, bad enough there to not bet that. I kind of like Debo rushing. I don't see anything for Debo rushing, but I think he's going to be involved. Stafford has exceeded 1.5 passing touchdowns in 6 of his last 7 games. That's an interesting bet at minus 125 on FanDuel. Jake Moody has exceeded 6.5 points in 5 of his last 6. I also like that too. I think he'll go over. High scoring game, gets a couple field goals on the board. I don't see a ton here, but there's plenty to look at. That's for sure. All right, let's move on. Stafford has exceeded 239.5 passing yards in 6 of his last 7 games. That's also could be an over too, especially if they fall behind early. That might be a good bet. So maybe a little bit of Stafford, but I don't know. I don't think Stafford will have a huge game, but it's possible that if it's high scoring, he could have some good stats at the end of the day. All right, let's get to Sunday action. That is the Baltimore Ravens at the New York Giants. Baltimore is favored by 15, potentially 16. I obviously think Baltimore is going to win this game. The discussion is going to be, are they going to cover? And bro, honestly, I think they're probably going to cover. I'm not going to lie. The thing about Baltimore is extremely explosive offensively. And you look at the areas where the Giants struggle the most. They struggle at defending the explosive pass. They struggle at defending the explosive rush. So those are 2 things that the Ravens do very well. Lamar is good at hunting for big plays down the field, and they're also really good at running the football, Lamar and Derrick Henry. So I think they're going to be able to control the game in whichever manner they so choose. I think Baltimore off the bye week is going to be motivated. I think Baltimore is going to be a team that comes out and plays good football against the Giants and plays clean on special teams. I think that's going to be a point of emphasis, especially for Justin Tucker. I think that their defense actually slowly has looked a little bit better. I thought they played solid against the Eagles. I thought they played pretty good against the Steelers. I thought there's been a little bit, the Chargers game, I thought they played pretty good. I think there's been a little bit of rhythm with the Ravens defense. They haven't been as atrocious as they were earlier in the season. I think their defense is going to continue to get a little bit better as we trend towards the playoffs, which is a reason I'm kind of raising my expectations for them and rising on how I feel about them. The Giants, meanwhile, terrible pass blocking unit, one of the worst in football. Locke is obviously mistake prone. Malik Neighbors, this might be a game that he checks out early if this is going to be a blowout. I don't see the Giants being able to run the ball, which is it's probably the most consistent part of their offense, the ability to run the ball. And Tracy is going to be running against the team that allows the least yards per attempt in football. And defensively, again, like a lot of explosive plays. So pretty simple. I'm going with a motivated Ravens team to shellac a not very good Giants team. Pretty simple. So I think they win by like 3 scores, like 17, something like that. Somewhere in that range, maybe 20 plus. I don't know. But Stephanie's got Ravens 30-10. Big Al says lock of the week, Ravens 37, Giants 13. Baltimore wins and covers, and he says he has the game at -16. So yeah, regardless, I think it's safe to say I like Baltimore to win by 17 plus. So we're going to take Baltimore to win, Baltimore to cover, which is pretty outrageous, but that's what we're going to do. Next up, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston at home versus the Voodoo Machine, the Kansas City Chiefs. How are the Chiefs going to win this week is the question, right? How are the Chiefs going to win this week? I don't think this is as easy of a game as Chiefs fans might expect, brother. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Chiefs. I really do. Let's break it down, okay? I think, first of all, the Browns offensively, they're going to throw the football. And as we've seen, Kansas City's secondary is a lot more susceptible than years past. They have injuries at cornerback right now. The Browns are getting Tillman back at wide receiver, their big outside perimeter threat. They've got Jerry Jeudy playing extremely well. Elijah Moore playing well. Both of those guys can run routes and separate. And I think that Jameis is going to throw for a lot of yards and potentially a few explosive plays here. David Njoku is questionable, which would be a big loss because the Chiefs have been so bad against tight ends this year. If he is able to play, man, a upset is extremely live in my opinion because the Browns at home have been a different animal, especially defensively. I mean, they did beat the Steelers there at home. I feel like dating back to last year, their defense has just played in general much better at home. You look at the area of deficiency for the Chiefs offensively, which is their tackle position. They're going to have to block Myles Garrett and that defensive front. I actually thought the Browns defense played pretty well against the Steelers, but the matter of fact was that they turned the ball over, gave the Steelers short fields. They missed field goals, gave the Steelers short fields, and the Steelers were able to execute on that. So it's probably ultimately going to come down to field goal kicking, turnovers, and that's why I'll lean towards the Chiefs to win this game. But at the end of the day, man, I think that the Browns do have a defensive front. They do have a decent offensive line. I think they can throw the football on the Chiefs. I think they can make this pretty competitive. So I'm going to say 24-21 Kansas City, something like that. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Browns won this game. I really wouldn't. I really wouldn't. I've seen 4.5. If you can get a 4.5, that would be much better in my opinion. Obviously, because this game could easily be like 21-17, something like that. Like kind of like the Chargers and the Chiefs game was, something like that. So I could see it being pretty like 3-4 points being the decisive edge in this game. So I will say, I don't know how well the Chiefs are going to run the ball in this game. I think a lot is going to have to come down to Andy Reid scheming things up, Xavier Worthy making plays against man coverage, Travis Kelce making plays against man coverage, because the Browns typically play a lot of man coverage. So can Andy Reid find some plays in his bag to allow his receivers to separate? Because I just feel like one-on-one, D-Hop is not going to beat Denzel Ward very often. That's just not going to happen. Right, Greg Newsome is injured. That's something to note. I don't think he's playing for the rest of the year. I think he might be out, or he's at least out this week. Keep an eye out on the David Njoku news, though. Kansas City, I thought the left tackle, the addition that they made, it didn't exactly work out for them in the first week. Maybe Humphreys gets a little bit better in that second week, but he looked pretty bad in the first game against the Chargers, and he's facing another really tough test with Myles Garrett ahead. So I like the Browns to cover +4, +4.5. But I will take the Chiefs because they'll ultimately find a way to doink a field goal, to have the center snap the ball, under Jameis's feet, Jameis to throw the ball for a pick six to lose. Something crazy will happen for the Chiefs to win this game, but the Browns, I think, will cover the game. Okay. Let's take a look at OUTLIER. Stephanie says, I think this will be closer, 21-19. I could definitely see that. Every Chiefs game is close. Every Chiefs game is close. All right. What do we got here? Travis Kelce has exceeded 10.5 first quarter receiving yards in 6 of his last 7 games. That's really interesting. -120. The Browns' area to attack them has also been, the tight end position has been a little bit easier than wide receivers. I will point that out. Judy has failed to exceed 70.5 receiving yards in 10 of his last 13 games at home. But that being said, he has went over that 3 games in a row. So I would not bet that. I think Judy should have a good game. That being said, I think McDuffie would cover Judy. That's why I feel like Tillman could have a big game in this one, back from the concussion. And Elijah Moore could also have a pretty interesting game. But McDuffie might also cover Elijah Moore at times. That could happen as well. The Chiefs are 0-6 against the spread in their last 6 games as a favorite. There you guys go. -105. Mahomes has exceeded half an interception in 5 of his last 6 games on the road. If you want to bet Mahomes to get picked off by the Browns, -115. The Chiefs are also 9-1 in their last 10 games on the road as a money line favorite. Winston has exceeded 11.5 rushing yards in 15 of his last 17 games. That's interesting. -110. Under his rushing yards. What else? Anything big stand out? Patrick Mahomes has failed to exceed 36.5 longest pass completion in 7 of his last 8 games on the road. -115. So it depends what you think. The one thing about that is because they play so much man coverage, somebody could trip and fall and like Worthy could run for a touchdown or something. So that's entirely possible. But yeah, I don't know. The Chiefs are not much of a downfield passing team. So we'll see how much the Browns kind of force them to make those downfield passes. And if I were the Browns, I really would, because at the end of the day, if you have to block Myles Garrett for 3 seconds, you're probably not going to be able to do it. All right, let's get to the next game. The next matchup is the Washington Commanders at the New Orleans Saints. If you guys haven't already, spike the like button. This game was considered potentially a best bet. I think I might make it a best bet. I like Washington to win and to cover. The Saints didn't look too impressive against the Giants. They lost Derek Carr. And I think they're not going to be starting Rattler. I think they're going to be starting the other kid. So we'll see. Is it Hayner, I think is his name? Or what's his name? He's better than Rattler at this point, but he doesn't have a lot of athleticism, arm strength. He's accurate. He kind of knows what to do with the ball. I think that's why they'll probably start him. But I look at this game, and I've seen the Saints play without Derek Carr this year, and they've been arguably the worst team in the league. Part of that is because, look at what's around the quarterback right now. Look at who those quarterbacks are. They're young. They're unproven. They don't have a lot of experience. The offensive line isn't very good. The run game is average. So I look at the Saints, and offensively against this Commanders defense that is getting Marshawn Lattimore for this game, the former Saint, in a revenge game spot going to New Orleans. That is a big motivating factor for his entire defense around him, right? They're going to want to show out. They're going to want to show up for their new teammate against his former team. I really believe in that sort of stuff. They're going to be motivated to do that. Dan Quinn has had a bye week to work on his defense, to bring some new electric flavor to the defensive side. I think the Commanders' defense against bad offenses has looked pretty good this year overall. And I don't see the Saints as the type of offense that will just be able to run the ball on the Commanders, which has been their weakness, especially if the Commanders get ahead offensively and start scoring. And that's where they've been really dynamic and hard to beat. And they've been covering spreads like crazy when they've been able to get that lead. On top of that, I think that the Commanders will be able to run the ball offensively. And like we've said many times, when the Commanders can run the ball, their offense is incredibly tough to stop. The Saints are not a very good run defense. They're one of the worst run defenses in football. We even saw that to a certain degree against Tracy and the Giants. I do think Terry McLaurin should have a decent game here. And I do think Jaden Daniels, he played at LSU, going to New Orleans, going to Louisiana. That's also pretty interesting to me, too. I think Jaden Daniels and the Commanders as an offensive team playing in a dome, it does favor them, in my opinion, because of his speed, his quickness, the way that they design their offense to be very screen and quick pass-oriented, yards after catch-oriented. I think their speed will take place here. So I think the Commanders will be able to run the football, bring something different from out of the bye week, have some explosive plays. I don't think the Saints are going to be effective or consistent offensively. I can just see the operation being out of sorts with no Derek Carr. They don't have Olave. They don't have Shaheed. They don't have Taysom Hill. They just have nothing left. So I like the Commanders to win in a blowout. I think it will be like 31-17, something like that, 34-14. I think they're going to win pretty big. I wish I could have got this at 7. It's now sitting at 7.5, but I'd still lay 7.5, and I probably will make this a best bet at the end of the day. So there it is, Commanders minus 7.5. Next up, we've got the New York Jets at the Jacksonville Jags. Jets are favored by 3.5 in Jacksonville. I don't love Aaron Rodgers going to Florida. If I'm not mistaken, he never plays well in Florida for some reason. I don't know if that's like a thing. Guys, let me know in the chat. I just remember this, right? Like, I think they lost. I want to say they lost to Jacksonville one year when they had no business doing that. I want to say that just off the top of my head. That being said, the Jets were extremely impressive last week offensively. I thought Devontae Adams looked great. I thought that Garrett Wilson looked fantastic. They couldn't tackle him in Miami. I thought both their young running backs, Allen and Davis, looked solid. And Rodgers was in rhythm. They didn't get much of a pass rush, and I don't know if Jacksonville will be able to either. On the other side, the Jets defense does know Mac Jones extremely well, and they should know how to defend him pretty well. They might be a little bit healthier in this game as well, so we'll see. But the Jets defense has not been great. You can run the ball a little bit on the Jets defense. You can throw the ball a little bit on the Jets defense, but the Jets defense is better than the Jacksonville defense. That's for sure. So the Jets are objectively the better team, but something doesn't feel right to me in this game. Honestly, both these teams are pretty bad. I want to say Jets win, but I actually kind of want to take the 3.5. I don't know why. Like, I kind of feel like this is going to be close and ugly. Like, Jacksonville's been playing a lot of ugly football games lately. Their defense has definitely played better lately. Like, there's no question about it. Maybe Mac Jones comes back down to earth this week. Maybe the Jags come back down to earth after a big win over Tennessee. I can't get Jacksonville right, man, but I'm going to go Jets to win, Jags to cover. I'm going to go like 20-17 Jets. Like, it's not going to be a pretty football game. I would advise against watching this game, but we're going to go Jets to win, Jags to cover. Something about Aaron Rodgers in Florida. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Apparently the team I hate most, according to all Steeler fans, even though I don't hate the Steelers because I'm a Penguins fan, So I don't hate the Steelers. All I'll say about the Steelers is they were the easiest team the Patriots could ever face in any playoff setting or any playoff game. We love the Steelers. Every time that they would come to New England, every time that the Patriots would go to Pittsburgh, it was the easiest win. Didn't matter. AFC Championship 3 times, bro. Beat them every single time. Okay, so that's all I'll say about the Steelers. They think I hate the Steelers. Why would I hate the Steelers when my team literally owns you? I don't understand why I would hate this team. Can you guys just leave me alone? I just give my opinions. I don't think your team is as good as you think your team is. Okay? All right? My team literally owns you. All right? Think about all the other Super Bowls you might have won if you could beat Tom Brady. But you couldn't beat Tom Brady. And the only Super Bowl you won is because Tom Brady tore his freaking ACL in the first week of the season. If not for that, he would have beat your ass in 2008 as well. So let's just throw that out there, all right? Okay, now that's off my chest. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to win this game, but are the Steelers going to cover? I saw a stat that the Steelers have not won against the Eagles since like 1960 something. Is that true? That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. Also, appreciate the dislike from the sour Steeler fan. Appreciate it. I made this guy so mad he disliked the video, bro. Okay. I think that the game should be pretty close because I don't really trust Jalen Hurts. I'm not going to lie. I don't really trust Jalen Hurts. I think that the Steelers' defense will come to play. I'm thinking about it. I'm really thinking about it. I'm going to go Eagles to win, Steelers to cover. Because I think Saquon and the Eagles, they're the more talented team. They're the better team. I think they have the better defense. I think they have the better offense. Now, do they have the better coach? Probably not. Do they have the better coordinators? I don't know. That's debatable, I guess. But where I just struggle with the Eagles is the passing game. The Steelers are going to be able to contain Jalen Hurts. They're going to be able to blitz and get a little bit of pressure on Jalen Hurts. That scares me because Hurts, indecisive, takes too many sacks. We see the friction between him and A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith is back, and that helps, but I still don't think there's any Dallas Goedert, which does hurt. That being said, I think the Eagles will be able to run the ball. The Steelers are good against the run, but I don't think they're that good. They're not going to be able to stop Saquon. I'm sorry. And I do think A.J. Brown will make a handful of plays in this game to ultimately give them the edge. I'm just scared about the consistency of the Eagles. All right. On offense. On defense, I struggle to see how the Steelers are going to move the ball against Philadelphia. The Eagles are probably the league's best defense overall. They're solid against the run. They've got an excellent secondary. There's no George Pickens. I think that they will be able to get pressure after Russell Wilson. The Steelers are one of the bottom 6 or 7 pass protecting units in football. I just don't see a lot of great matchups here that favor the Steelers on offense. So this will likely be a grind of a football game, which is why I would lean towards taking a point spread as big as 5.5, because this most likely lands on 3 or 4, because the game will likely be lower scoring in my opinion. So I'll take Philadelphia, Saquon, the Eagles in the Battle of Pennsylvania because of their defense, because I think they're the better team, because the Steelers finally play comp and they're going to lose. All right. So Eagles win, Steelers cover. Big Al's got Eagles 24, Steelers 20. Philadelphia wins, Pittsburgh covers. This is one of the 2 games of the week. Big Al's going to be excited for this one. Says, hi, Laura. Welcome to the stream. What's up, Laura? How you doing? Thanks for joining the stream, Laura. Yeah, we're going to go Eagles to win, Steelers to cover. Let's check out any of the props. What do you think, Big Al? I think it's going to be a defensive game, man. I do. I think it's going to be a defensive game. These are two of the top 5 defenses, I think, in the league, probably. These quarterbacks are a little suspect at times. No George Pickens, no Dallas Goedert. Najee has exceeded 14.5 rushing attempts in 7 straight games. I think that is likely to go over as well. That's at -128 on FanDuel. Just because I think the Steelers will play this game slow. I think they'll try to possess the ball. I think both teams are going to play this game slow. Both these teams are going to try to possess the ball. I think Najee Harris will be the main beneficiary there. 14.5, I'd probably lean towards the over. Eagles are 5-10 against the spread in their last 15 games as a favorite, but they've been covering fairly often lately. I think that more so has to do with last year. Hurts has failed to exceed 25.5 passing attempts in 8 of his last 9 games. I think under 25.5 is likely again too, at -106, which is a pretty good price. I don't think he's going to have to throw that much in this game because I think they're probably going to be playing from ahead a majority of the time. That being said, I think statistically speaking, it might be slightly easier to throw than run against the Steelers, but I'm not exactly sure. It's probably pretty even both ways. What do we got? Wilson has failed to exceed 8.5 rushing yards in 4 of his last 5 games on the road. The over is hit in 7 of the Steelers' last 9 games as an underdog. I'd actually like the under here, under 42.5. What else? Saquon has exceeded 19.5 rushing attempts in 5 of his last 6 games at home. Najee has exceeded 72.5 rushing receiving yards in 10 of his last 13 games. Anything stand out? What's this? Van Jefferson has failed to exceed half a first quarter receiving yard. These things go deep, bro. First quarter yards. All right. Let's get to the next game. Next up, we've got the New England Patriots at the Arizona Cardinals. Guys, by the way, if you do want to sign up to OUTLIER, there is a link in the description, and you guys can check out all this stuff for yourself. You can use the code BLV for a little bit of a discount as well, so make sure to check that out. All right, Patriots versus the Cardinals. Cardinals are -6. I just don't know why we keep giving Drake May so many points. I'm trying to figure this out. Do people not realize, Big Al, how good this young Drake May kid is? Like, do we not realize this? The team is ass. I get it. The Patriots are not good. But Drake May is really good. Like, the sooner people realize this, the better. Because every week I come on here, man, and I say, the Patriots will cover. And people laugh at me. And almost every time they cover. Every time they cover, bro. Last time against the Colts, there's no way we shouldn't have won that game. We still covered the game. But our coach is a jabroni. Gerard Mayo is a jabroni. Okay? Drake May is going to cover. He's going to cover that. This is too many points. Let's break it down, all right? Defensively, Arizona, not the most talented defense in the world. What do? They like to zone blitz. They like to throw some creative looks, and they don't have a great 4-man rush. I don't think the Patriots are going to have a problem blocking the Cardinals, which is huge because the Patriots' offensive line is truly dreadful. That being said, when you blitz Drake May, you pay. He's very good against the blitz. He knows where to go with the ball with the blitz. He's able to extend plays. He's able to run. He's been one of the most effective outside of structure quarterbacks in football this year. That is not just me saying that. That is statistical evidence. Alongside Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, he is the best outside of structure quarterback in football. So he's going to be able to extend plays and make throws and runs. All right? I like how the Patriots offenses look lately. I like how they've been running the ball. I like how they've been able to, implement play action, screens. I think every part of this Van Pelt attack has been flowing pretty well. On the flip side, I don't think that's been the case for the Cardinals offense. The Cardinals offense has been not very good, a little disjointed. They're very reliant on their running game. That being said, okay, I see this more as a shootout. I think this is going to be like a 27, 23, 20, 24, 21. Maybe that's not a shootout, but like in the 20s range, like in the mid-20s, I think it'll be kind of like the Colts game because I think the Cardinals are going to be able to run the ball with James Conner. The Patriots have not been good against the run all year. You can get efficient gains on the ground. I do think Trey McBride will make some plays through the air as well. And I think Kyler will be able to extend and run and do some things as well. So I think that the Cardinals will be able to make some plays on offense and be able to score some points on offense, especially at home where they're much better at home offensively. On the flip side, though, I think the Patriots are going to move the ball pretty easily against the Cardinals, too, because I think Stevenson will have a solid game running the ball. The Cardinals have struggled against the run lately. Zach Charbonnet, I think Drake's going to make his throws. I'm intrigued to see what the Patriots bring off the bye week. I do think Gonzalez is going to be able to shut down Marvin Harrison if that's what they choose to do. So I think a lot of it is going to come from Michael Wilson, plays from Michael Wilson, plays from McBride, plays from Connor. For the Patriots, I think Douglas could make some plays and Henry could make some plays and Stevenson. I think those will be the primary guys as usual. I don't have enough faith in the Patriots defensively to win this game outright, so I think the Patriots will keep it close. They'll score, but I don't think they'll be able to make enough stops, and I trust the Cardinals coaching a lot more. I think Gannon's a better coach than Mayo. I think they're at home. They need this win much more. But that being said, this is a little bit of a dangerous sleeper spot for the Cardinals because the Patriots are coming off the bye week and they could bring some new things to the table because Mayo might be coaching for his job at the end of the day. So we'll see. But the Patriots have been a much better team than I think people give them credit for lately, and that's because of their quarterback. So I think it will be competitive, but I will go with the Cardinals to win and the Patriots to cover in this game. Big Al's got Cardinals 24, Patriots 17. Cardinals will win. I'm not sold that they'll cover 6. I think New England can backdoor the spread. Jordan Hunter says 34-31 Pats in overtime. Let's go. Rob says Cardinals get right game. Kyler wins in a shootout. Jordan thinks it's a Drake May legacy game. Stephanie likes that score, 24-17. All right. I'm going to go 27-24 Arizona. That's going to be my score. 27-24 Arizona. 2 dislikes. It must be both Steeler fans. Shout out to you, jabronis. What are you guys doing? My team still owns you. All right, let's continue. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Tennessee Titans. Who cares? That being said, the Bengals still have a chance to make the playoffs, guys. They still got a chance to make the playoffs. I know you don't want to believe. It's still real. All right? It's still real. The Bengals can still make the playoffs, all right? So they have to win this game. I'm going to go Bengals to win. I'm going to go Titans to cover. Because I don't trust the Bengals defense one iota. The Bengals defense is utter trash, bro. The Bengals defense might be one of the worst defenses I've ever witnessed in my entire life as a football fan. How in the blue do you have a quarterback that leads in yards, leads in touchdowns, a leading sacker, a leading Triple Crown receiver, and you're not in the playoffs? Because your defense sucks. They suck. Even against Will Levis and Tony Pollard, I think the Titans are going to be able to run a little bit. This is also a Titan coach revenge game. Callahan comes from Cincinnati. He'll be very familiar with the Bengals from a personnel perspective. He'll be aware of their defense. He'll be aware of their offense. The question will be, do the Titans defensively show up here? Are they able to get pressure on Burrow? Just the way Burrow and this Bengals offense is playing, it's really hard for me to believe they're going to be stopped. I mean, I don't see anybody on the Titans covering Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. This could be a big bounce back T. Higgins game because of how poorly he played last week, and all the people putting him in their parlays were disappointed. Chase Brown's been an absolute ball of fire. The Bengals are going to score their points, so the question will be, can the Titans score? I think this is going to be low-key and exciting, higher-scoring game. I I think the Titans offense, after a terrible game against Jacksonville, I think they're going to have a slight bounce back here because I think they're going to run it a bit. And I think Will Levis will hit some big plays down the field against this very suspect cornerback group of the Bengals. So I think that, Calvin Ridley should have a good game. Nick Westbrook-Akine might score a touchdown, as always. Tony Pollard, I think, has a big game, though, and I think that keeps it close. But I think that the Bengals ultimately will make more plays, especially through the air. I think they're going to be able to throw the ball against Tennessee and move the ball because of it. So maybe the Titans get some sacks and some pressures on Burrow, but I think ultimately he makes too many explosives and he does overcome it. So I'm going to go Cincinnati 28. 28. Something like that. 28, 24, 27, 23. Something in that range. Jordan's got 25, 22. Titans. Big Al's got Bengals 27, 23. All right. He's expecting both teams to have less than 350 yards. What do you mean by that? Passing? What do you mean by that? Total? They're going to score 27 points and have less than 350 yards? That's wild. All right. We're going to get to the next game. It's the Indianapolis Colts at the Denver Broncos. Shout out to all the people in the chat right now. If you haven't already, Gronk spike the like button, guys, and subscribe. Colts at the Broncos. Broncos are favored by 4. I got the Broncos to win and the Broncos to cover. I'm not believing people if they tell you that the Colts are going to cover. I don't get it. Denver's better. Denver's at home. Both teams are off a bye. Denver has the better defense. Denver has the better coaching. Denver has the better quarterback. Denver has the better offensive line. I just don't see why the Broncos can't win this game and cover. I just don't see it. I think that Sean Payton off the bye week, plenty of time to prepare his young quarterback for this simplistic defense of Gus Bradley. The Broncos can block the Colts. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. I think Bo Nix and Payton together will find those little quick passes. I was really not impressed with the Colts against the Patriots. I thought they looked awful for a majority of the game, especially defensively. I thought the Patriots ripped them up. And I think the Broncos will be able to do that. And I think on the other side, Denver will shut down the Colts passing game. I think Richardson's really going to struggle with Vance Joseph's defense. I think he's going to struggle with the blitzes. I think he's going to struggle with the pressure. I think that, the Broncos have a pretty good secondary. They might get guys back off the bye week. I don't know, man. Yeah, like the Colts offensive line is going to be a bit healthier. Maybe their receivers are a bit healthier. But I just think the Broncos are better, and they're at home, and they've got the coaching edge here, and they've got the quarterback edge. So I like Denver to win. I don't really think this spread should be 4. I'm not as high on the Colts as a lot of other people. I just don't see it. I think Richardson sucks. How can I rely on a guy that throws 40% completion? I really can't do it. Next up, this is another big game. We've got the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins are going to lose. I've got the Houston Texans at home. -3 over the Miami Dolphins. Why? Because the Texans are going to be humming out of the bye week. I absolutely despise what I saw from the Miami defense against the New York Jets. They couldn't tackle Stephanie if she had the football out there. It was embarrassing. They look like the Bengals. They couldn't tackle. I think the Texans are going to come out and have one of their better offensive games. I think Joe Mixon's going to be able to run it against this Dolphins front. I think Nico Collins is going to go crazy. Tank Dell another week to rest and get his legs fully under him. And I think there could be adjustments made by Slowick, the offensive line. I expect the Texans to look a lot better on offense. Caesar saying Texans blowout 56-7. Holy smokes. Okay. Jordan's got Texans 35-21. Tua will turn the ball over. I also think that's tough. This is probably the best defense the Dolphins have played since Tua has returned. I want to look that up, but I feel like that's true. If we look at Miami's schedule, this is probably the best defense they have played since Tua has returned. Now, Miami's offense has looked really good. I do think Miami, if they want to win this game, I think they have to run it. I think they can run it a little bit on Houston. But I think where it scares me is that this pass rush, these edge rushers, are nutty. Will Anderson, healthy, bye week rested. Hunter, bye week rested. Will Christian Harris play for the first time? That would be pretty big. I don't think, Jalen Petrie was announced out. This game could certainly have a shootout type feel, but I trust the Texans defense a lot more. I think they're going to make a lot more plays in terms of pressure, sacks, maybe a forced fumble, maybe an interception. D'Amico's going to know this offense very well because he comes from San Francisco. McDaniel comes from San Francisco. So he's going to have a good feel for this offense, all the motions. I think Stingley will be able to run and cover Tyreek fairly well. So we're going to the Dolphins schedule. All right, so they've played the Jets defense, which is not very good this year. The Packers defense, which is and they only scored 17 points. The Patriots defense, which is bad, and they scored 34. The Raiders defense, which is bad, and they scored 34. The Rams defense, which is, I think, very overrated. They only scored 23. They scored 27 against Buffalo. That was by far their most impressive performance. But you look at since, Tua has returned, he's played the Cardinals, the Bills, the Rams, the Raiders, the Patriots, the Packers, the Jets. This is the best defense he's played. It's on the road. It's a team coming off a bye week. I love the Texans here. I might have to bet this. I really do. For some reason, I think this is going to be one of the Texans' best games of the season. So I'll take Houston to win and Houston to cover. I think Stroud comes out firing in this game. All right. Next, we've got the Dallas Cowboys at the Carolina Panthers. Dallas is a road dog. Carolina is favored for the first time in forever. At least that's what it feels like. Carolina is favored by 2.5. I think Carolina is the slightly better team right now. I think they're playing slightly better football. I don't think Dallas is playing bad whatsoever. I thought they played pretty well against Cincinnati. I think Cooper Rush, though, is not playing good football. I think Bryce Young is playing good football. I think Bryce Young is playing pretty well. The best football of his career. He's extending plays. He's being elusive. He's being accurate. He's got great vision down the field. I love how Adam Thielen's playing. I think he'll be able to make plays here. I think the Panthers will be able to run the ball in this game. You see who Carolina's played lately. Kansas City, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay. They've been going up against pretty big guns, and they've been playing with those big guns. I think this is an opportunity for Canales and Bryce Young to get a W. I think they put it together. I think Dallas has a little bit of a letdown performance early in this game because of, a big loss against the Bengals where it was Monday night, they were at home, and it was a depressing way to lose with the whole punt fiasco. So I think that could happen, but that being said, I think Rico Dowdle will be able to run it. I think CeeDee Lamb will make his plays. I think this could be like a low-key kind of fun game, honestly. But I do think Carolina is better right now. So I'm going to take Carolina to win, Carolina to cover at home. I like Carolina here. I'm going to take the Panthers. Nothing too crazy. This is not like a huge game. I probably would stay away from betting it just because these two teams are not competent enough for me to really get involved, including the fact that the Panthers are the Panthers and they're favored. So I don't know if I exactly want to lay points with the Panthers, but yeah, I have to take them in my picks straight up and against the spread. Stephanie says Houston wins. Sorry, Mitch. I'll be sitting this game out. Bryce Young makes a statement against Dallas, says Rob. Caesar says Panthers win 20-17. Jordan says this is a tough game to pick. I'd roll with the Panthers to win and cover. Big Al's got 24-17. Panthers. Everyone's on the Panthers. Keep pounding. All right. We've got 68 people in the chat, only 32 likes. That's disrespectful, but we'll move on. All right. What do we got next? We already covered that game. We already covered that game. We already covered that game. Let's get to the Green Bay Packers at the Seattle Seahawks. Packers are favored by 2.5. I'm going to go with the Packers because they're just the better team. I like what I've seen from Seattle, but I'm keeping it simple. Packers have had time to rest, time to prepare, extra time. Seattle's played a couple big divisional games as of late. And I think people's egos, especially Seahawks fans, are inflated by the fact that they beat the Cardinals twice. Like, yeah, they own the Cardinals, guys. Like, at a certain point, we have to admit when something is true. They own the Cardinals. But am I extremely impressed that they beat the Cardinals twice? I'm not. I still think they're flawed. Man. I think they're flawed on offense. I think they have trouble blocking. And I think that their offensive line has looked better because they've played the Cardinals. And the Cardinals are not a great pass rushing team. They have to blitz to get pressure. Right? Like, I think Green Bay can get a little bit more pressure in this game. I'm not exactly sure the status of Alexander. I hope that he plays. Maybe I could look that up right now, but he has had extra time to come back. So, that's obviously big, especially against DK Metcalf. But I'm just not quite there yet. Okay, so he did practice in full today. That's good news. So yeah, that definitely helps my odds. I like the Packers, especially at 2.5. At 3, I still lean towards the Packers. I do think this is I think Big Al's score is very, very correct. 27-20, something in that range. Maybe a little bit lower scoring. I give respect to the Seahawks defense. Maybe like 24-20, 24-17. Green Bay played pretty well offensively against Detroit. Defensively, they had their moments, but they were playing an elite offense, right? And Seahawks are certainly not an elite offense. They're very spotty. Seattle has also not been great at home this year, so I'm not too worried. If there is elements like rain, I'm not worried about the Packers because they play really well in those elements. The Packers are better at running the football than Seattle is. Seattle's been better at running the ball lately, but Packers are better at running it overall. I think the Packers are just a better team. I do respect Seattle's defense. I do think they're playing hard. I do think they're playing better. And it wouldn't shock me if Seattle won this game. But if Alexander's back, I got to side with Green Bay. So I'm going to go Green Bay here to win, to cover. Seattle will drop this game in a race for the NFC West. Also, the NFC North has been crazy good against non-divisional opponents this year. It's actually nuts. They do not lose to non-divisional opponents. Stephanie likes Seattle this game. I'll take the 12th man to win. Rob says Jordan Love is prone to turnovers and Seattle's defense can feast on turnovers. The 12th man will be alive at Lumen Field. All right. I just think the Packers are better. I'm sorry. I don't know. Extra time to prepare too. You guys like the Seahawks. All right. Let's check out some outlier stuff. The Seahawks are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games versus top 10 scoring defenses. Love has failed to exceed 245.5 pass and rushing yards in 4 of his last 5 games against top 10 defenses for pass yards allowed. That's interesting. Could this be a run-heavy game for the Packers? Packers are 1-4 in their last 5 games against top 10 scoring defenses. That sides to the Seahawks for you guys. Love has exceeded 1.5 passing touchdowns in 13 of his last 17 games. This has been one of the best bets the entire year, by the way. Love to score 1.5 touchdowns. Geno has failed to throw 1.5 touchdowns in 11 of his last 13 games. Holy smokes, really? I didn't know that. That's crazy. You could maybe even combine those 2 bets. Love to go over, Geno to go under. Jacobs has exceeded 89.5 rushing receiving yards in 8 of his last 9 games. That's minus 117. There looks to be a lot of nice bets on this one, just from a trends perspective. That's really interesting. So, yeah. Really, really under the radar good game there in Seattle. Typically, that's the case, hey? A lot of games in Seattle are underrated. Okay. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. These are 2 of my favorite non-favorite teams, if that makes sense. If that made sense, let me know in the chat. Tampa Or sorry, that's wrong. Los Angeles is favored by 3. I put up the opposite team by mistake. Did that indicate where my heart was at in the game? I don't know. We will find out shortly. Just to double check, I'm pretty sure it's Los Angeles minus 3. But, okay, so these have been 2 of the most underrated quarterbacks in football this year. I think Baker and Herbert have been fantastic. Yeah, Chargers minus 3. That's just a typo. Okay, so I like the Chargers. Chargers are at home. Tampa has to travel to LA. This is across the country, obviously. Tampa's more beat up. Winfield is out. That's huge. Bucky Irving injured. Not sure if he's going to play. Herbert did not practice today, says Stephanie. That is true. I think he'll be fine, though. I think they're being pretty conservative. You know, we saw Herbert get hurt and then come back and play actually better after he got hurt against the Chiefs. So I'm not too worried about it. Obviously, this would change. If Herbert's out, obviously I'm picking the Bucs, okay? I'm just going to say that. But as long as Herbert is active, I'm picking the Chargers. I like the matchup for the Chargers. I think that the Chargers offensively, they struggle more when teams play man. Why? Because their receivers can't get open. They can't separate, right? The Chiefs pretty much forced them to throw a lot of tight window throws, and it wasn't until Josh Palmer figured out how to get open that they were able to move the ball, because they can't run the ball right now. The Chargers are struggling to run the ball with any consistency because J.K. Dobbins is out. I don't think they'll be able to run the ball that effectively against Tampa. I think this is going to be all about Herbert. I think Herbert against zone coverage, especially the Bucs zone coverage where it's a lot of zone blitz, they're going to leave a lot of vacated areas, and Herbert's great at finding them. Herbert's great at identifying coverage, going to the hot spot with the ball, and getting the ball to his playmakers. I think Ladd McConkey will play. That also helps. So I think Herbert's going to have a big day. I think he's going to have around 300 yards, a bunch of pass attempts, a bunch of completions, just getting the ball out quick and hot, and always knowing where to go with the ball against Todd Bowles' blitz. On the other side, the Chargers are a heavy zone defense. I think Baker could throw 1 or 2 interceptions in this game. That's just kind of how he's been playing lately. He forces the ball into things that aren't there, and the Chargers are very good at forcing those mistakes. They also have a good pass rush that can get a little bit of pressure on Baker at times, but I respect the Bucs offensive line. It is good. The Bucs also can run the ball, but I don't necessarily think they're going to just run over the Chargers, who have been a competent run defense all year. And a big difference for me is the Chargers are great in the red zone defensively. The Bucs are not really a great defense at all. I just think the Chargers are a little bit more well-rounded, a little bit better from the coaching perspective, a little bit better on defense. And I don't think this is a game where the Bucs, from a scheme offensively, can just do whatever they want against the Chargers. I think this is going to be a tough one for the Bucs to win through their offense alone. So, yeah, especially with the home team being the Chargers, I'm going to take the Chargers. So I'll take Chargers -3, -2.5, whatever it is. This might be a best bet, but I've got to see what Herbert is doing and if he's going to be active and good to go. I definitely think the Tampa secondary is ripe for a absolute rocket fest from Justin Herbert without Winfield. Okay. Next, the Buffalo Bills at the Detroit Lions. Game of the week, game of the year, game of the decade, game of the century. The Detroit Lions at home versus the best player in football, the MVP, Superman himself, Josh Allen. If you haven't already, Gronk, spike the like button. Now is the time, because it's the game of the year. It's the game of the week. It's the game of week 15. Big Al says Herbert's availability will be something to watch in the coming days. Stephanie says I will always bet on my Chargers, but if Herbert does not play, that's a tough one. Well, yeah, of course. Okay. I'm picking the Buffalo Bills with the points in Detroit. I think this is a big bounce back game for the Bills. Detroit has had extra time to rest and prepare, but that being said, the Bills are getting reinforcements. It looks like Kincaid and Coleman will be back, and they'll have pretty much everybody available. I think the only guy that could miss is Rasul Douglas. I think it's about time that the Lions drop a game because their defense is just so beat up. And I think their defense could, get a little bit healthier because of that extended rest, but it's still very beat up. And what I look at it is, I think this is a terrible matchup for Detroit's defense, even if they're healthy. First of all, the game's in a dome. It's a fast track. There are no elements to slow down Josh Allen. Second of all, the Lions are really bad against mobile quarterbacks. Really bad. They can't defend quarterbacks that can run. Part of that is because they play so much man coverage that doesn't allow you to have eyes on the quarterback. Okay, so Josh can run here. I think take his rushing overs a lot. I think the Bills receivers are going to be able to win their one-on-ones, whether it's Kincaid returning at tight end, Shakir in the slot, or Amari Cooper, who could have another huge game as he did against the Rams. I think Carlton Davis will struggle with Amari Cooper a little bit because of his shiftiness. And Coleman will also probably win a couple back shoulders and things like that. The speed of James Cook, the speed of Curtis Samuel can also be a problem here. Plus, the pass rush of the Lions is not that great. And the Bills have an excellent offensive line. You saw how they blocked against that Rams front, which I would argue is better than the Lions right now, especially from a pass blocking perspective. So I just feel like the Bills are going to be able to move the ball and score a ton of points. It's really going to come down to, okay, what does their defense bring? And I think this is a huge bounce back spot for their defense and Sean McDermott. I don't necessarily think they're going to shut down the Lions. I don't think any team in the NFL, no defense, no offense, can shut down obviously no offense, Mitch, can shut down the Lions because they're too good up front. They run the ball too effectively. They have great play calling. But I do think that the way to play the Lions is to four-man rush, is to play heavy zone, is to force Goff to throw into clouded zones over the middle of the field, and is to force him to throw the ball down the field vertically. And I think the Bills do exactly those things really well. I also don't think that I just want to take Josh Allen in a shootout over Jared Goff, period. And I think the Bills defense, the way that it's currently constructed and talent-wise, is a little bit better than the Lions with all the injuries that they have. So I'm going to take Buffalo in a high-scoring game, 34-30 or 34-31. It should be really entertaining. It should be great back and forth. But I do think Goff is probably going to throw an interception or get strip sacked or something. Something's going to happen with Goff in the third or fourth quarter. I'm just going to throw that out there. He's going to throw it into heavy coverage, and someone's going to pick it off. I'm going to say that. McDermott needs a bounce back, and I think he gets it. Laura says, in Detroit, I know the Lions D is beat up, but I can't go against them at home. That's fair enough. Durkant says that the fraudulent 0 big win Bills, even though they've beaten the Chiefs, lose to the top team in the bright lights. Yeah, I like the Bills. I think I'm pretty damn confident in this game as well. Big Al's got Bills 31, Lions 27. Buffalo wins and covers. Detroit is overdue for a loss. Jordan says it's too bad the Bills lost the way they did last week. However, I'm picking the Bills. All right, so a lot of people like the Bills here. Robert likes the Lions 31-28. I think it should be pretty high scoring. There's no doubt about that. I would take the points with Buffalo. I would take the Bills. And this will probably be a best bet because if I like them to win, I like the points too. All right. Next up, the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are favored by 7. 2 Monday Night Football games this week. I think if we look at what is Sunday night? Sunday night is Packers and Seahawks. We already covered that game. I had the Bills and Lions last because it's the game of the week. Dolphins. Probably because they're canceling the chat. He's got Vikings 24-7. I for some weird reason, I think the Bears are going to be in this game. I don't know why. So I'm going to take Vikings to win. I don't know, man. The Bears are one of the most frustrating and tough teams to predict because for a stretch of time, they were playing really well. They covered, or they played really well against Green Bay. They should have won, and they covered. They played really well against Minnesota. I think they covered that game. The game went to overtime. They played really well against Detroit. They covered, right? So Sure, Chicago got destroyed by the Niners, but in recent games, they've played really well. So it's kind of hard to know. Is that because they fired Eberflus? Is that because it was the first week of a head coach that was the offensive coordinator and previously the quality control coach who had to elevate two different spots and lost control of what he was actually supposed to be doing with the offense? Or was that just the Niners coming out playing with fire and, playing with their season on the line like it was a playoff game? Maybe it was that, but I feel like Minnesota is good to me. Like Minnesota, defensively, they should shut down the run. They're excellent against the run. Their blitzing and their pressure should be able to frustrate Caleb Williams. The Bears are going to have issues with lining up correctly, taking false starts, illegal formations, things like that, because Minnesota is one of the best home fields in football. It's Monday Night Football. It's going to be loud. It's a rivalry game. I could see a lot of penalties, pre-snap penalties. That being said, I think Caleb also showed against Minnesota that in the second half, he was able to make a lot of great throws and great scrambles and make the game competitive because of their receivers, Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. And I think they both could have good games here. On the other side, Chicago's defense has played not great lately, but I don't think they're as bad as they played against the Niners. I think this was just the Niners coming out and perfecting their execution, unlike previous games, where we know the Niners can do what they can do when they score in the red zone. I think that their pass defense has always been pretty good against the Vikings. The first game this year, actually, Sam Darnold did have a really good game. I think he had over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jordan Addison had a massive game, but Jefferson really struggled because they kind of doubled him the whole game. The run game of Aaron Jones was very effective. And so I think the Vikings are definitely going to win, but I'm struggling with the points. I'm not going to bet this. I'm going to lean towards Minnesota because I don't trust Caleb Williams. I don't trust him on the road. I don't trust his ability. I don't trust the Bears on the road in general. I don't trust their ability to block. I don't trust their ability to not take penalties. I don't trust the coaching disadvantage. I don't trust their run defense. So I like the Vikings. I'm going to go Vikings 31 31-20. Bears score cheap points at the end. Something like that. Next, we've got the Raiders at the Atlanta Falcons. It's Desmond Ridder time, which is why I have the question mark next to the spread, because I don't think there's actually been a confirmed quarterback. So I didn't really know what to do. I've heard it was 4 or 4.5. So I just put a question mark. I'm going to go Atlanta to win, Atlanta to cover. I actually really like Atlanta in this game. Because I think Desmond Ridder is the worst quarterback in the fucking league. Okay. Sorry for the French, but, the worst quarterback there is. He is so bad. If you guys think Caleb Williams is bad, oh boy. Meet Desmond Ridder. All right. The Atlanta Falcons desperately need a win. Desperately. Okay? Kirk Cousins has looked awful. They're coming off a terrible loss. They got embarrassed. That's exactly the time. To bet on the Falcons. So I'm going to go Falcons to win, Falcons to cover, Drake London, Bijan, Kirk Cousins. This is not a great Raider defense. Desmond Ridder revenge games don't exist. I like McCormick. I like Bowers. I like Myers. But Ridder sucks. I can't do it. He's so bad. He's so bad. Durkant, he sucks. I'm going with the Falcons big. 30-13. That's my score. I think Atlanta has a huge bounce back win, and everyone's like, whoa, are the Falcons going to win the division? And then next week they probably get smashed. But that's what the Falcons are going to do. They're going to come out. They're going to win this game. Kirk Cousins in prime time. He's going to win a game. Durkant says Desmond Ridder revenge game. Brock Bowers legacy game. Falcons 28-10. Desmond Shitter looks almost as bad as he did on my Madden teams. Big Al says 27-10 Falcons. Atlanta wins and covers. Doesn't matter with Vegas's quarterback situation. Aiden O'Connell would make this a game. Aiden O'Connell would make this a game. Big Al says, breaking news, former Patriot head coach Bill Belichick has agreed to take the head coaching job at North Carolina. Yeah, that's wild. I never thought Bill Belichick would be coaching in college football. I never thought that would be the case, but apparently that's where we're at. It kind of sucks. I wish he would coach a different NFL team, but I wish him the best. And I think that UNC is going to be a contender in short order. He's going to recruit some players just as he did his 20-year-old girlfriend, and he's going to get going, man. They're going to start winning games. So don't you doubt Billy B, all right? Don't you doubt Billy B. Kirk O'Chain's coming back. Falcons cover, says Jordan Hunter. Guys, don't forget to Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. My Week 15 NFL picks. Best bets coming out Thursday morning. Start 'em and sit 'em on Owner's Box Fantasy. If you're not subscribed to Owner's Box Fantasy, that's where all my fantasy football content is at. All right, I've been working for that brand the entire season, so make sure to subscribe over there as well. Thanks for watching. It's Mitch. Enjoy the games. Make wise investments in your bets. Peace.